The High King of Aurelian had conquered 12 star systems before breakfast. That was how the historians would write it anyway, though in truth, it had taken closer to 3 cycles of calculated annihilation, genetic suppression, and ritualized submission. Still, for the people of Aurelian, it felt like breakfast. Swift, effortless, inevitable. High King Sereth stood on the command dais of his flagship Eternal Dominion, gazing at the pale blue planet turning slowly beneath him. Earth. Primitive, one of his generals said, his voice edged with disdain. No unified planetary shield. Fragmented governance. Their strongest weapons are kinetic, chemical, inelegant. Sereth said nothing at first. His golden eyes narrowed slightly as he studied the scattered lights across the planet's night side. And yet, he murmured, they have not surrendered. They are unaware of us, my king, the general replied. Our cloaking veil remains perfect. Their species cannot even detect our presence. Then perhaps, Sereth said slowly, they do not surrender because they do not know they are meant to. The court chuckled softly. Humor was rare in the High King's presence, but when it came, it was often cold. Shall we proceed with planetary subjugation? Another advisor asked. We can deploy atmospheric dominance within a single rotation. Sereth considered this, then shook his head. No. Silence fell. Instead, he turned and gestured toward a smaller tactical display. A cluster of moving dots traced across a narrow strip of land on one of the planet's continents. What is this? The data officer hesitated. Ground-level analysis indicates a civilian transport vehicle, my king. Designation: school bus. A transport? Sereth asked. Military? No, my king. It carries young. Another pause. Children. That word held no meaning in Varelian culture. Offspring were incubated, tested, and matured in controlled chambers. Individual youth emotional bonding, these were inefficiencies long bred out of their species. Sereth leaned closer. Unprotected. Yes, my king. No armor. No escort. It follows a predictable route daily. The High King's lips curved slightly. A species that leaves its young exposed on open roads, he said softly. Either they are foolish, or they believe themselves safe. The general stepped forward. A demonstration, perhaps? A localized strike to evaluate response capability. Sereth nodded once. Yes. A lesson. On Earth, the morning was ordinary. The bus rattled gently as it rolled down the narrow rural road, sunlight filtering through dusty windows. Inside, a dozen children laughed, argued, and leaned over seats to talk to one another. At the wheel sat Mrs. Eliza Carter. She had driven this route for 18 years. She knew every bend, every pothole, every farmhouse dog that barked as they passed. She also knew every child by name. Okay, she called over her shoulder, smiling. Settle down back there. You're louder than the engine. A boy named Marcus grinned. That's because your engine is dying, Miss Carter. Watch it, mister, she said. This dying engine has gotten you to school every day since kindergarten. Laughter rippled through the bus. Outside, the sky was clear. Too clear. Mrs. Carter frowned slightly. Something about the light felt wrong. Too sharp. Too still. Then, the air split. A streak of violet fire tore across the sky, descending with impossible speed. What is that? One of the children whispered. Mrs. Carter's instincts screamed before her mind could catch up. Hold on, she shouted. The world exploded. From orbit, the High King observed the strike with clinical detachment. The beam lanced down from one of his cruisers, precise, controlled, devastating. It struck the road just ahead of the moving vehicle, vaporizing asphalt and sending a shockwave outward. The bus flipped. Debris scattered. Direct hit proximity achieved. The tactical officer reported. Vehicle disabled. Casualties likely. Sareth nodded. Monitor their response. Seconds passed. Then minutes. No retaliation came. No missiles. No energy signatures. No fleet mobilization. The High King's expression hardened. Pathetic, one general muttered. But Sareth raised a hand. Wait, because something was happening. On the ground, movement. Mrs. Carter's ears rang. The world had become a haze of smoke, dust, and screams. Her head throbbed, and warm blood trickled down her temple. The bus lay on its side, one wheel still spinning slowly. Children cried. Some were trapped. Some were injured. Some were silent. And above them, the sky burned faintly violet. Mrs. Carter forced herself to move. Everyone listen to me, she shouted, her voice raw but steady. We're going to get out of this, okay? One at a time. A small hand grabbed hers. Miss Carter, I'm scared. She looked down at little Hannah, tears streaking her soot-covered face. I know, sweetheart, she said softly. So am I. Then she smiled. But I've got you. She pulled the emergency lever and kicked at the door until it groaned open. Sunlight spilled in. Marcus, she called. Help the others. Stay low. The boy nodded, fear in his eyes, but determination, too. One by one, they began to crawl out. Above them, unseen, the High King watched. They are evacuating, the data officer said, confused. No defensive response, another added. No attempt to locate the source of attack. Sareth leaned forward slightly. They protect their young, he said. Instinct, the general replied dismissively. Many species exhibit such behavior. Not like this, Sareth said quietly, because he could see it, magnified through orbital sensors. The injured adult, the driver, she was the last to leave. She moved back into the wreckage again and again, pulling children free, ignoring her own wounds. At one point, a secondary explosion ignited part of the bus. Still, she went back in. Why? Sareth murmured. No one answered. On the ground, the danger was not over. The first strike had been a test. The second was not. A targeting beam locked onto the wreckage, this time directly. Mrs. Carter saw it. A faint glow, dancing across the broken metal. She didn't understand what it was, but she knew it meant death. Everyone run, she screamed. The children scattered, stumbling across the field beside the road. One of them, Hannah, tripped. Mrs. Carter didn't think. She ran back, scooped the girl into her arms. And then the sky fell again. From orbit, the High King's breath caught. The second strike hit. A direct impact. The explosion was absolute. When the light faded, there was nothing left of the bus. Nothing left of the driver. But the children, they were alive. Thrown clear by the blast. Burned, bruised, but alive. Because she had carried one more child away from the epicenter. Because she had chosen to go back. Sareth stared at the display. Something unfamiliar stirred within him. What is this? He whispered. No one in the chamber spoke. Because none of them understood it either. It took exactly 9 minutes for Earth to respond. 9 minutes. That was how long it took for a passing farmer to call emergency services. How long it took for sirens to echo across the countryside. How long it took for humanity to realize something had just attacked its children. And when humanity realized, everything changed. Deep beneath mountains, hidden beneath layers of secrecy and stone, doors opened. Systems powered on. Weapons long thought theoretical came online. Not because of war, but because of rage. The High King sensors lit up with activity. Multiple energy signatures detected. The tactical officer shouted. Subsurface origin, global distribution. Impossible, a general snapped. They lack the technology. Do they? Sareth said quietly. Because now he could see it. Missile silos opening. Experimental platforms activating. Encrypted signals bouncing across the planet at light speed. Not chaotic. Coordinated. Unified. All vessels, defensive formation, the general ordered. But it was already too late. The first human weapon struck not with fire, but with silence. A pulse, unlike anything the Varelian had ever encountered, washed over the fleet. Systems flickered. Shields destabilized. Weapons went offline. What is happening? The general roared. Unknown energy type, the officer replied. It's rewriting our systems. Sareth felt it then. For the first time in centuries, uncertainty. Then came the second wave. Missiles. Hundreds of them. But not primitive. Guided by AI that adapted in real time. Warheads that shifted frequency mid-flight to bypass shields. The Eternal Dominion shuddered as the first impact struck. Shields collapsing, someone shouted. Return fire, the general barked. But their weapons were still offline. Still compromised. Still useless. On Earth, the children huddled together in the field. Rescue teams arrived. Medics rushed in. And somewhere, far above, humanity fought a war it had not asked for, but would not lose. Sareth gripped the edge of his command throne. How? He demanded. How can they do this? No one answered. Because the truth was becoming clear. This was not a primitive species. This was a species that had never needed to show its strength. Until now. Another explosion rocked the ship. Hull breaches spread. Fleet formations broke apart. Ships that had conquered entire civilizations were falling. To a species that had been, moments ago, dismissed as insignificant. And then the signal came. Not a weapon. Not an attack. A message. Broadcast directly into the High King's mind. A human voice. Cold. Controlled. Furious. You attacked a school bus. Sareth froze. You killed a teacher. The voice didn't shout. It didn't rage. It didn't need to. You made a mistake. For the first time in his reign, the High King of Aurelian understood fear. Cease fire, Sareth whispered. But it was too late, because humanity had already decided. The final strike came from nowhere. No warning. No detectable origin. A single beam, clean, precise, absolute. It cut through the Eternal Dominion as if it were nothing. Systems died. Gravity failed. Light faded. As the High King fell to his knees, the burning wreckage of his fleet reflecting in his fading vision, he saw it. The image that would be etched into his final moments. Not a weapon. Not a warship. But a broken bus. And a human running back into the fire. It was just a school bus, he whispered. And in that moment he realized it had never been just anything, because to humanity, it was everything. The beam tore through the Eternal Dominion like a blade of judgment. There was no flare of glory, no desperate counterattack, no final speech of defiance, just silence. The flagship, Pride of Aurelian, conqueror of 12 star systems, split cleanly in half. Energy bled into vacuum like dying starlight. On the command dais, High King Sareth collapsed to one knee as gravity failed. Sparks rained from shattered consoles. The screams of his court were cut short one by one as atmosphere vented into space. For the first time in his existence, he was not in control. Across Earth's secure global defense network, confirmation screens lit up. Target neutralized. In bunkers beneath mountains. In submarines beneath oceans. In orbital platforms hidden behind debris fields. Humanity stood united. Not because of politics. Not because of borders, but because someone had attacked their children. On a quiet rural road, smoke still curled into the sky. Emergency crews worked tirelessly. 9 children survived. 3 were critically injured, but alive. And Mrs. Eliza Carter, she did not survive. News spread across the planet within minutes. There was no confusion, no conspiracy theories, no hesitation. The footage from satellites, though classified, was enough. An attack from orbit, a targeted strike, on a civilian school bus. Every nation activated defense protocols without argument. For the first time in recorded history, humanity responded as one species. In orbit, the last remnants of the Varelian fleet attempted to flee. They never made it. Human countermeasures were no longer reactive. They were predictive. AI-driven tactical systems adapted to alien maneuvers in real time. Quantum scrambling pulses rendered Varelian warp drives unstable. Escape vectors collapsed before they could be executed. One by one, the invaders fell. Some were disabled and captured. Some simply vanished in silent flashes of light. And then, the message was sent, not just to the surviving Varelian ships, but across the stars. Humanity broadcast on every detectable frequency in mathematical constants, gravitational pulse patterns, and encoded quantum packets. The message was simple, clear, universal. We did not seek war. You attacked our children. This was your only warning. In the fractured remains of an escape vessel, a Varelian commander trembled as he received it. He had witnessed entire civilizations erased. He had overseen planetary sterilizations. He had never felt doubt. Until now. What are they? One of his surviving officers whispered. The commander stared at the tactical display, showing the debris field that had once been the High King's fleet. They are, he said slowly, a species that loves its young. And that terrified him more than any weapon. Back on Earth, the funerals began 3 days later. Mrs. Carter's was attended by thousands. Children from every grade she had ever driven. Parents, farmers, teachers, soldiers, scientists. World leaders watched quietly from a distance. No speeches about vengeance were made. No grandstanding. Only gratitude. And promise. Marcus stood at the podium, hands shaking. She told us to run, he said. She went back for Hannah. He swallowed hard. She always went back. There was not a dry eye in the crowd. In orbit, construction had already begun. Not of weapons, but of guardians. Humanity's hidden fleet, long developed in secret as a contingency against unknown threats, expanded openly now. Defense platforms were placed at key orbital points. Early warning arrays extended beyond the moon. Deep space listening stations activated. Not aggressive, protective, because humanity had learned something important. The universe was not empty, and it was not kind. Months later, deep in interstellar space, a Varelian survivor vessel limped into Allied territory. They brought news of Earth, of the annihilated fleet, of the High King's death, of weapons that rewrote systems and beams that split flagships apart. The Varelian Empire, built on centuries of dominance, fractured within weeks. Client species revolted. Subjugated worlds declared independence. Fear spread faster than any human ship ever could. Not fear of invasion. Fear of consequence. Back on Earth, Hannah, the little girl Mrs. Carter had carried from the blast, recovered slowly. She had burns along her arms, scars that would never fully fade. But she was alive. One evening, she looked up at the stars from her backyard. "Mom," she asked softly, "are they coming back?" Her mother knelt beside her. "No," she said gently. "They won't." How do you know? Her mother looked at the faint glimmer of new satellites crossing the night sky. Because now they know who we are. Far beyond the solar system, in a hidden Varelian archive vessel drifting without a king, historians recorded the fall. The official entry was short. Invasion attempt. Sol 3. Objective. Subjugation. Result. Catastrophic failure. Cause? After much debate, it was written plainly. Strategic miscalculation. But privately, among themselves, they used different words. They had misunderstood humanity. They had mistaken kindness for weakness, routine for vulnerability, a school bus for insignificance. They had not understood that for humans, there is no such thing as just a school bus. 1 year later, Earth unveiled the Carter Initiative, a planetary defense doctrine named in honor of the teacher who ran back into fire. Its principle was simple. Humanity will never strike first, but it will always protect its own. The unveiling ceremony was broadcast worldwide. Marcus, now taller, stood beside Hannah as the first orbital Guardian platform powered online behind them. A gleaming shield in the sky. The crowd applauded. But the loudest sound was not celebration. It was resolve. And somewhere, in the silent dark between stars, alien civilizations adjusted their calculations. Earth was no longer categorized as primitive, nor as passive. It was marked with a new designation. Protected. In the final archived recording recovered from the Eternal Dominion, moments before its destruction, High King Saratha's last words were preserved. The translation was imperfect, but clear enough. It was just a school bus. The audio ends there. But historians would later add the line he never had time to say. And the High King realized it had never been just anything. Because humanity does not measure value in firepower. It measures value in people. In teachers who drive dying engines down familiar roads. In children who trust adults to bring them home. In the unspoken promise that no matter how small you are, you matter. And if the universe ever forgets that again, it will remember. The hard way.